It's an absolute honor to interview Billy
Thank you.
Carson today. Thank you so much for being with us. You're the founder of Forbidden Knowledge.
Mhm.
You're the best-selling author of Compendium of the Emerald Tablets,
Yes.
which I have here.
Thank you.
Also, of course, your Gaia host,
Mhm.
Ancient Civilizations, Deep Space.
Mhm.
Very busy man.
Yes.
I want to know,
Mhm.
from your perspective, from
Yeah.
your in-depth investigation
Mhm.
into the Emerald Tablets, to the Book of
Yeah.
Enoch, et cetera, Dead Sea Scrolls.
Mhm.
What does it tell us about our sentient beingness?
Okay. Well, from all the years of really like investigative research into ancient tablets, texts, cylinder scrolls, papyruses, I mean, various different texts around the world that I've now, and also talking to indigenous people, sages, real homegrown indigenous people, finding out that we are, according to the ancient tablets and ancient texts, we're living in what they call a sleepy time or a dream world. The Mayans called it also a dream world as well, where what this realm that we're in the third dimension is actually an illusion. And now modern science is starting to catch up to that. But what does that really mean as far as us as being sentient beings? Well, when you look deep into the illusion or the mechanics behind the illusion, you discover that we're living in a light matrix, a matrix made of light, and that even our bodies are made of light. And we're also multidimensional. So our consciousness actually streams down from multiple levels of dimensions to get into this third dimensional density. And then our bodies, literally, which are light vessels, collapse into what we consider to be a solid object to encase this consciousness stream that comes in. But the consciousness stream, according to these tablets and texts and all these indigenous people, is the same one source. So this consciousness source has literally divided itself up into Googles of entities, and where it now has become, it appears to be me, appears to be you, appears to be other people. But it's not just that, it even goes deeper. It goes all the way down to the atomic level. So we're talking about the experience of a consciousness, a mass divine consciousness trying to experience itself from every perspective that exists in the third dimension. And everything in the third dimension is divine, not just human beings. Everything is sentient, not just human beings. Even a rock is a sentient being. And when we understand that, the way that we treat the world around us, the way we treat people, the way that we treat and respect even our own selves will completely change and transform.
It baffles me. Why have we devalued ourselves in the world we live in and all of these beautiful animals, plants, trees, rocks, etc., to such a degree that we have?
Well, you know, it's very interesting. When you look into these tablets, you discover that we had an ancestor here, a cousin. It wasn't Homo sapiens sapien like us, but I believe that we are directly still linked to that lineage, that bloodline. And this was a being that was here, a hominid, that had bigger brain. We could tell because we found the skulls, we found the bones. This is not a mystery. A bigger brain, and I think that they probably had a bigger pineal gland because of a larger brain, probably were more in tune with the Schumann resonant, the frequency of the earth, with nature, in tune with how to operate within nature and more of a green type of a society. And I truly believe that they were very much smarter than us, not technologically, but spiritually. I believe they had access to the magnetite crystals in their brains. More of their DNA was probably plugged in. So whereas not now, we rely purely on technology as Homo sapiens sapien. And without technology, we're completely lost, including myself. I mean, if GPS goes down, I'm lost. Okay, forget about it. I think they had the capability of navigating based on magnetic fields, maybe even telekinesis, telepathy, all of those things that we should be operating in right now because we still have it in us. We've just been unplugged. And that unplugging happened about 200,000 years ago when a race of beings came to this planet named the Annunaki. We call them the Annunaki. They have various different names. And they began to genetically tinker with the hominids, our cousins, until they got to the Homo sapiens sapien, which is actually us. Our brains became smaller. Our pineal glands became smaller. Our DNA was unplugged and called now junk DNA, but it's not really junk. And we've kind of been disconnected from nature in a way through this genetic modification that occurred about 200,000 years ago. And modern science has confirmed that a genetic modification happened to us about 200,000 years ago, but they don't know by who. Well, the ancient tablets clearly say exactly who it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mind blown already. Thank you, Billy Carson. I'm interested in what you said about intelligence. Mm-hmm. Sentient IQ, sentient intelligence. Is that connected to the heart? Is it in alignment with the head and the heart? How does that work? What do the books tell us?
Well, you see, everything in the third dimension operates or exists as an electromagnetic wave. So there's nothing here that is actually solid until a conscious observer collapses it, or until sentient energy collapses it into something that we consider to be solid. So solidity is an illusion. Separation is an illusion. So what the ancient text is telling us, that even me sitting here talking to you, I'm talking to myself. And when you're talking to somebody, you're talking to yourself, because there's only one consciousness. And there's different levels of sentience. A blade of grass is sentient. Why? Because the electrons that orbit the atoms are conscious. And how do we know this? Famous double slit experiment that we did in the laboratory. We discovered that when you look at the electron go through the slit in this little tiny platform to see if it was going to make a digital pattern on the back wall, or a wave pattern on the back wall, when you look at it, it decides to go back to being digital. When you're not looking at it, it's a wave. So right now, while we're not looking at our homes, because we're here halfway across the country, our homes exist as a wave of light, a light wave, electromagnetic waves of energy. When we go back to look at it, it collapses back into a solid structure. So everything is conscious because electrons are conscious, and every atom has electrons.
Fabulous. I love that you brought the science into it. Thank you. Yeah. I want to bring the sky to the street here.
That's right.
With this conversation. I'm really interested in the relationship between our feelings and consciousness. Mm-hmm. Is it like an interwoven fabric?
It's interwoven. Consciousness and feelings are interwoven, but they're directly also affected by epigenetic memories. Epigenetic memories and memories in the DNA. So epigenetic memories are memories that are stored in your genes from ancestors. This is already, again, real science, peer-reviewed science. So if you go back 15 generations, the memories of your ancestors 15 generations ago are inside of your body. And they directly affect and interfere with your hormonal system, your thought process, and your emotions that you're currently having at the moment. They can also collide with those ancient memories and those ancient emotions. And it can cause you to have PTSD, or it can cause you to be exuberantly happy. It just depends. Some people on this planet are suffering from PTSD and depression based off of epigenetic memories that are still inside of their body, affecting their emotional state.
I want to provide real-time solutions. What would I do about that if that was the case for me?
Yes, that's a great question. So to fix this problem, and it is fixable, because science, again, I love backing things by real science, has proven that within 21 days, saying positive affirmations about yourself out loud every single day for 21 days, you can change your DNA. You can rewire yourself. So if we've got this epigenetic memory situation where people are becoming internally sick from ancient ancestor turmoil, all you have to do is begin to say positive affirmations, begin to do meditations, eat energetic foods, and also operate in unconditional love. That will shorten that process. So the next generation will they'll have less epigenetic memories. And if you teach that generation, the next one will have less. So instead of 15 to 18 years, we can get it down maybe to only 4 or 5 years. But it takes a team effort.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We want to keep the ball rolling in that direction.
Yeah.
Fascinating that we've brought everything to this point of DNA, our beliefs, and how we create our own reality.
Right.
I want to look at the creational properties of our sentience.
Yeah. Well, you have to relate it to the human brain. So as above, so below. Consciousness that has created this entire realm of third dimension, or this universe, is like the human brain. And if you look at the human brain on the below status, it's encased in complete darkness. Consciousness is out there in complete darkness. The human brain, it doesn't have any clue of what's going on outside of your skull, but it has friends: hearing, smelling, sight, touch, feel, all your senses. So it says to its friends, go out there and tell me what's going on. So the friends go out and they collect information. From a galactic standpoint, a universal standpoint, consciousness sends out its friends. We're here. We are the senses for this universal consciousness. We go out and we collect information. So does your senses. Now, most of the time, we have no idea the information we're collecting. We bring it back to the brain, which is encased in darkness. And then the brain sorts it all out and projects a hologram as to what's going on outside. And we navigate through the matrix based on that hologram. And it happens the same exact way at the highest level. The universal consciousness literally has divided itself into Googles of entities to experience itself subjectively from many different perspectives, including human beings, animals, rocks, grass, everything. And all that information is being transmitted directly back to source.
Wow. So that's really good news if my system is operating on all cylinders, if you will. It's really bad news. If I am depressed, if I'm really struggling with negative emotions, I mean, is there intrinsic value to the negative charge?
Well, you know, there's a yin and a yang to everything in this universe. So there's always this, you know, this up and this down balance. The fortunate people that are able to tap into spirituality, some people use religion, whatever works for them, are able to somehow get out of that depressed mindset. It's very, very difficult to do. If you can, you know, people contact me every single day to tell me they're depressed. Some people, unfortunately, 3 to 4 times a day, because of how many followers I have, are talking about suicide. And I'm not an expert on it, but the things that I could tell them to do are, number one is to sit down and take, you know, deep breaths. And I talk them through a breathing technique of 10 seconds in, inhale, 10 seconds, exhale. And I talk to them about eating more energetic foods, not eating dead foods. I talk to them about meditations that they can do. And then I give them the hotline number, which I have just saved in my clipboard. Those are the best things that I can do, because depression is a very serious thing. And unfortunately, I know a few people that they weren't able to come out of it and they're no longer with us. It's a very hard thing to get out of.
And that's a real dark side of sentience. You know, when I don't know if it's a worthlessness or we devalue our existence to the point where we omit ourselves from this holographic reality. Yeah,
it's really tough, because what happens is once you get into a depressed mindset, now your frequency is going extremely low. So there's an actual computer program that can be connected to a head gear that can detect the frequencies that your brain is emitting and see where the brain centers are lighting up. And it can create a cosine wave on a computer. And that cosine wave in a depressed state is a very slow, long, undulating wave. And when you're in an excited, exuberant, happy, positive mindset, it's a very short, fast, rapid cosine wave as it moves across. And in that slower wave, in that low frequency wave, what happens in the mind is the synapses between the neurons even slows down. And then the brain starts to send neurons to different places, starts to rewire itself in a very strange way. And now its reality is being warped. The reality of that consciousness is being warped and changed in some kind of a way that's extremely strange. It's hard to really put the finger on, even in modern science, what exactly, because each person is different. Just like if you have a disease like cancer, each person will take a different treatment for that cancer if they're able to come out of it. And same thing with depression. It's too hard to really buckle down and just say one specific thing is wrong with this person in the mind, because everybody's mind will rewire it differently. And that's the hard part, understanding how the brain has rewired itself in that low frequency mind state.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I struggle with. And my personal battle was alcoholism. Mm-hmm. So to overcome addiction, the unexpected byproduct of all of that was staying with my feelings, was then this great awakening. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it just happened without me even having that goal.
You're so fortunate. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm the very lucky, one of the very few lucky ones who's on my way to recovery. The addiction kills. Yeah. My father's gone just in December of last year. Sorry. Alcoholism. He was attacked by cops and 4 years prior broke his back. Old man, 74 years old. But he increased his alcoholism to another level because of trying to self-medicate. Went to the hospital. They were going to fix his back, but they didn't give him enough alcohol to compensate for what he was drinking. And he went to withdrawal symptoms and died. It's deadly.
Yeah, deadly.
Alcohol is actually one of the hardest drugs to withdraw.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Physically.
Yeah, I watched it my whole life since I was 1 year old. I've seen it. It's a very difficult thing. And I always look back and think, man, because I've seen a few people like yourself that have been able to break out of it. And I tried so many different types of talks with my dad, and there was nothing that I can do to reach through to get him. He would have 2 or 3 months here and there over the years that he would be okay. And he was a totally different person at that time. But it was just difficult. So some people are just, they tap into a frequency, like you tapped into a frequency of thought patterns or thought waves, and it just kind of reeled you back out, just pulled you back out of that deep hole. And unfortunately for him, he just was never able to latch on to anything to come back up out of that hole.
It's really touching that you've told me that story. Thank you. I'm deeply sorry for your loss.
It's okay. Thank you.
Do you believe we live in an addicted society?
Oh, addiction is everywhere. Sex addiction is number one. That's the number one thing. Going back as far as you can go back, sex addiction is number one. Of course, this fake fiat money system is number two. And now we have digital addictions, video games, cell phones, computers, tablets, and everything else. And human beings are naturally have addictive personalities. And so, the elites know this, so they play on us. This is how they're able to manipulate us and keep us going in a specific path that they want by putting out things that draw in our focus conscious into different addictions, whether it be gambling or sports or whatever.
Are we manipulated through fear?
Fear is the number one form of manipulation. In other words, with fear, I can make you do anything. First, I create the fear, and then I present the solution for the fear. And now I'm your puppeteer. I can pull all your strings, and I can literally make you do whatever I want. That's why they pump fear 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's like, 12 years ago, I just disconnected TV. I said, forget about it. No need to look at TV anymore.
I did that about 7 years ago. Haven't looked back.
Yeah, just streaming networks with conscious content. That's all I need.
100%.
Yeah.
Gaia, bring it on.
That's it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's where it's at for me.
Yeah.
And that, it's all about high vibrational living.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really interested in my vibrational output.
Yeah.
I think we put so much focus on our carbon footprint.
Yeah.
And that's so important.
Mm-hmm.
But what about our emotional footprint?
Right.
Is that even maybe more so? Or would that lead to cleaning up the environment?
I think we have to find a balance because we are living in the matrix. And because of that, there's a financial matrix, there's a systematic matrix. And the financial matrix right now, unfortunately, dominates this planet. And because things like being in this hotel cost money, they're not going to just let us come in here and be in this hotel for free. So we have to see money as an energy exchange versus a monetary system. And we have to understand from a different perspective that we're utilizing this thing to exchange our energies. And the energy exchange here is for us to be able to sit and talk about this stuff in this room. So we've exchanged that linking currency piece for this. But at the same time, we have to also take care of our emotional, because if you get on an airplane, the first thing they tell you before the airplane takes off is if we have a catastrophe or a situation and the mask comes down, make sure you get the oxygen first before you help somebody else. And the biggest problem that we have right now is we're always looking to help somebody else before we're even able to help them. Sometimes we got to take a break. Now, of course, we don't want to stop helping people. But sometimes we have to take a break and we have to get ourselves right on the inside. We have to get that oxygen mask sometimes, strengthen ourselves so that we can help other people the right way. Sometimes we're limping to help them, or we're in a situation where we can't even help them because we're so weak and we're trying to get somebody else to do something that we aren't even able to do ourselves yet. But it's not saying we don't try, but we've got to spend time, good mindfulness time on ourselves. I think that's so important.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring the conversation back towards sentience.
Okay.
The word I've obviously become obsessed with. Mm-hmm. What's the number one takeaway from the Emerald Tablet specifically that can give us a clue as to the importance of our feelings?
Okay. Well, Thoth himself, which is really the gentleman that authored the tablets, he claimed to have authored them himself. He didn't use a scribe. When a lot of these ancient gods or demigods, you would use a scribe. He did it himself. And he talks a lot about the fact that mankind lives in this great cycle of rise and fall, and that we fall into darkness. And he said, but the human being, the spirit that we have in our avatar bodies is so incredible and so powerful, we have the capability of rising not only to higher levels of consciousness, but even above his own and doing things even greater than he's able to do. He talks about being able to utilize his consciousness to travel to other planets and watch civilizations rise and fall. And he talks about all the different civilizations that he's seen. And he literally says that you have to focus on the light. When you fall into darkness, focus on the light and seek the light. And what he's trying to say is find the good in things, learn your lessons from the darkness, and then keep taking a step forward back into the light, because light is our birthright. And light is the higher level of consciousness, ascended master, adept initiates, learning from your past and building a better future. And also he talks a lot about unconditional love for not only yourself, but other people in the universe. And that will give you the higher level of sentient consciousness that takes you to the next level and can take our entire civilization to the next level, technologically and spiritually.
Man, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
We're working with HeartMath and their Global Coherence Initiative.
Wow.
And so we're going to kind of end on mass meditations. If you do this for yourself and we connect with others, wow, can we then start to influence the collective? Can a small number of incoherent, highly coherent people influence a very large number of incoherent people?
Oh, that's very, very possible. That's going to be a great initiative. I was talking last night about the fact that the human body is so incredible, and the way that our torus field, which is our energy field that comes out, extends from our body out through our heart and around our body, it also allows this magnetic field that allows our DNA to send and receive information wirelessly. Again, real peer-reviewed science. We can upload and download directly from our DNA. When you're walking through a room full of people, you literally have the capability of transmitting out positive energy into their fields, and when it goes down into their core, change the way that they feel and change the way that they even think, just by walking through a room with the right mindset and the right energy inside of your body, and vice versa. If you're walking through dark, dim, and you're emitting a lot of cortisol and everything else because you're feeling a low vibration, you can also have a negative effect. So I tell people, be mindful even walking through a room, because you can change the whole energy in a room just by walking into it with the right mindset.
Man, I love that. That's something we're really trying to drive home, is taking responsibility for all of this, for your vibrational output.
Absolutely.
Where does sacred geometry come into it?
Sacred geometry is very important to all of this, dealing with energy, matter, sentience, consciousness, divine energy, and all this, because sacred geometry is a fundamental basis structure of the ether of space-time itself. So at every point in space-time, or every Planck unit in space-time, which is the smallest measurement of distance, you have something called a flower of life. And the flower of life has intersecting circles, and these intersecting circles create something called a vesica piscis. The vesica piscis emanates out pure divine energy flow from the universal consciousness 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, at all points in space-time. Now, within this flower of life, which is a sacred geometrical structure, you have the Metatron's cube, which is a 4-dimensional hypercube. And inside of that, you have something called the vesica piscis. And then in that, you have the 64-grid tetrahedron. As we go one more level down, you have something called the vector equilibrium. Now, the vector equilibrium is the centralized point inside the flower of life that gives you access to zero-point energy, that gives you access to spiritual energy, that powers every single cell in your body and everything in the entire universe. All energy comes from that one source, but it's everywhere. It's flowing in us, through us, and out of us at all points in space-time. As a matter of fact, every person has 0.07 millivolts of electricity per cell in their body. 35 million cells are in your body. You have over 2.65 trillion volts of electricity in one human body. That's how powerful we are.
Holy shiitake. So what would you say to the person who's like, me, little me, I'm not powerful, I can't do anything in this big world? What's your message to them? My
message is, first of all, if you really knew how truly powerful you are, you would never say that. Human beings are extremely, extremely incredible. The way that our avatar bodies are structured or set up, the way that we're able to download information directly from space-time, and the way that we have all this energy inside of our body. That's what Qigong is all about. And Reiki healing is all about manipulating the energy centers in our body. The energy and the power is already in us. I would tell them to understand this, that the same divine energy that created everything that we see in the third dimension is the same exact divine energy in every single atom in their body. And they have billions of atoms. So the power is already in them. And the only thing they need to do to access it is command it. Stop begging and hoping and wishing for things to change, and start commanding change in your life. It's a different mindset. The universe only understands power with power. It doesn't understand weakness. When you go weak, it just falls on deaf ears. All these trillions of prayers that go up every single day all around the globe from all 7.5 billion people, because 85.9% of people are religious, doesn't really have a direct effect. Why? Prayer does work if you know how to pray. So the people who are feeling worthless and low and everything else, you have to understand the power is in you. Stop begging and hoping and wishing for something to happen. That is a low frequency mindset. I can take a cap, put it on your head with electrodes, connect it to a computer, and tell you to beg, tell you to wish and hope, and watch the frequency line low. Now do it again, command. When you want to get to a destination safely, I command I make it to my destination safely. Not please help me make it safely, please help me get there. You want to take care of a situation, you can't make your car payment? Don't, please, I need to pay my car, they're going to take my car. No, I command that all my needs be met in a timely fashion. It's a different way of understanding how prayer works. It's how they do it in the East. It's understanding that the completion before completion, understanding is already done before it's done. That's the way you're supposed to pray, with power and energy. And if you change that mindset, then you'll find out how powerful you really are.
Wow. So all of this can come from getting in full contact with my feelings.
Yes, exactly.
And using the word contact, why does that then, why does, sort of this emotional intelligence lead to contact?
It's really interesting how that is. It's almost as if we're being watched all the time. And when they see particular people reach a specific frequency, then they interject at some point. They make this communication or this contact or show themselves or fly over your head in a craft or whatever. But it always seems to happen to people that have had these revolutionary, consciousness experiences. And it's almost as if they're scanning for frequency ranges. Because right now we have a satellite in space that can literally send information directly into your head. This is, again, real science. It can pinpoint you, because they can pinpoint the heads or tails of a quarter from space now. It can pinpoint you, and it can actually send a piggyback signal on the same frequency as your consciousness, your mind, which is, I think, 5 to 8 hertz, and make you think you're hearing voices in your head. That's the technology we have right now. So understanding that, it's like, wow, they could be scanning for different frequency ranges of conscious thought. This person's ready. This person, let's do a test. Let's just show ourselves. Let's just appear here. Let's send a communication to them. So with technology, anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
That's right.
The sky is the limit.
That's right.
Brilliant. I think that's a great place to end. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, that's fantastic. Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to add?
Brilliant.
Absolutely
Thank
nailed
you.
it. I could talk to you all day, but I know you don't have a lot of time,
Yeah.
and I really appreciate you.
Thank
being
you.
here with
Thank
us.
you.
It's an honor to include you in the film.